Senator Herron. Senator Nemes.
Present.
Representative All. Here. Representative Hodgson.
Here.
Chair Williams.
Here.
Co-Chair Lockett.
Here. Any objection to accepting the minutes from the July 9th meeting? Without objection, so ordered. Okay, next order of business, we're going to change the sort of the order a little bit here to accommodate some of the presenters. So we have Legislative Research Commission up first with Jay Hartz. And if you all would introduce yourself, and Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for honoring my request to go first. We're taking my son to college this afternoon, and I am under my senior management team has given me specific instructions.
I understand completely.
that I must abide by. So thank you for helping me live up to those obligations. My name is Jay Hartz, and I'm the director of the Legislative Research Commission.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Harris. I'm the Deputy Director / Chief Information Officer of the Legislative Research Commission.
Thank you all very much. Would you like to share anything about going forward?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have a formal presentation. We're actually much more interested in what questions you or other members of the committee may have, so that way we're not presenting you with information that may or may not be helpful to you. So we're prepared to answer whatever questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Representative All, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, thank you for your time this morning. Good luck this afternoon.
Yeah. Your thoughts and prayers are appreciated.
Yes, they're appreciated. Yes, I've got it next year. In the wake of the legislative targeted shootings in other states, especially Minneapolis and stuff, I know we've had a lot of conversations about security in general for not just legislators, but everybody who works in this building and the other building. Has there been any specific technology advancements or projects or things looked at that's come out of that tragic situation?
So thank you for the question. It's certainly timely, and I will be somewhat circumspect in my public response. But that unfortunate Saturday, I instructed Jonathan to remove through OSIT, Jonathan Harris through OSIT, to remove all the home addresses of members that appear anywhere on the LRC website, and then the Speaker and the Senate President tasked me, and we're working through identifying all the other places on state government websites or documentation that members' home addresses appear. I don't get involved in your campaigns a whole lot, luckily for me, but there are certainly filing papers for declaring your candidacy. Where you live is an important piece of information. People who are contributing to your campaign, potentially their home addresses are appearing on campaign finance reports. So we're sort of working through that to be able to give sort of a holistic idea to the Speaker and the Senate President about what's that landscape look like, the General Assembly was forward-thinking during this last legislative session, and made some changes to how your home address is, how the Secretary of State's deal with your home address is related to your lives as candidates. But we're sort of looking everywhere else, and the our move into the temporary chambers has triggered a very large look at safety issues, and from my perspective, obviously I'm very concerned with your safety, and so this may be a 1 or 1A, but members of the public, and I'll say this to my friends in the lobbying corps. When I say the public, I'm referring to more somebody who has made a decision that they're going to come in their car, maybe drive a couple of hours to meet with you, attend a committee meeting for a bill that they're interested in, interact with other members of the committee, maybe meet with other advocates for an issue they're interested in. I'm really concerned that when they come here, we have taken due care to make sure that they are. I don't know if safe is the term I want to use, because I don't. If there's someone who's committed and is willing to give up their own life to do whatever it is they're going to do, we could take appropriate precautions for that, but we can't imagine every instance where they may go. So we are working with the state police and other national experts in legislative security that whatever it is that we do deploy, folks who know what they do, that's what they do for a living, will have taken a look at it and said, this all makes sense. Have you thought about this? So we're actively working through that process.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one follow-up. I know that when folks come to visit the Capitol, and I want everybody to come, it's their Capitol. We're going to have this unique, once in a century displacement, hopefully. But when people sign in and they come through the metal detectors, I think now we scan those folks' driver's licenses. Is that log, or what happens to that scan? Is it category? Is anybody taking that, this is who showed up today, to see if there's anybody on a list? And here's what I mean by a list. And I know people have written lists. People have pictures of folks who are frequent flyers or problems. When I worked in constituent services, I had a list of people who would show up every once in a while in the Capitol that were known issues. So when people come in and we scan that driver's license, is anybody on the back end doing anything with that identification to flag somebody that could be unsafe, or whatever adjective you want to use there, to just kind of see and alert Capitol Police and security, just to kind of maybe keep an extra set of eyes on them?
So that is a function, policy, and procedure of the Kentucky State Police. So if you have questions about what they do, I can certainly arrange for you to be generally briefed on what they're up to. But I'm not the boss of that, so I wouldn't. There is a process that if someone has contacted a legislator either in person or through email or by phone call, there's a LRC process to identify those either through volume or content that we need to bring to the state police. And then once they do, they have a process that they follow. So what that is, that's their thing. So I would never want to speak for them.
Thank you very much. Chair Lockett has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of as a follow-up to the prior questions, I think probably all of us would know that within a matter of about a minute or two, we could all find each other's address online, just through a simple Google search. Is there any technology that's out there, any way to block things like addresses, phone numbers, those types of things for government officials that may not want that information to the public?
That is a question that we have asked, and we are working through commercial products that may be helpful in accomplishing that goal.
What kind of commercial products are you looking at?
I don't feel comfortable in this setting telling the bad folks what back doors we might be looking at by identifying a product. But Jonathan and I would be happy to come talk to you directly and just chat through what the possibilities are and those sorts of things.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, Representative Hodgkins also has a question.
There's no K in that, by the way.
Last time you said there was no G in it. Okay, am I doing?
Pretty sure I spelled it right myself, but So my question for you is, as one of the three branches of government, you got your own IT department, the courts, and of course the executive branch has a huge operation. What's the level of data interaction you have between your systems? Is there anything that we can do to streamline that? We don't really have an overall state IT structure. Any problems that you can highlight? Anything we need to be looking at strategically to enhance sharing of information? For instance, in another role I have, the Board of Elections really needs to get files from the administrative office for the courts for who's a current active felon, so you can bounce that against the voter rolls. And those tasks seem unnecessarily difficult. Are there situations like that in the legislative branch where you're not able to share information adequately with the other branches of government?
I'll let Jonathan take that one up.
Thank you for the question. There are a couple of situations where we do transfer data back and forth between branches of government. They're pretty willing to work with us on transferring that data, so we don't have many problems in the most part. There could be some standardization of data that among state government that could be explored, but I don't know that there's anything specific that we have trouble with at the moment.
Okay, good.
Very good. So I have a question. I know this is sort of redistricting is in the news, and I know we're not looking at doing anything soon, but I believe that we need to prepare for the next one soon. Are we looking at transition? Are we going to start having some extraordinary expenses where we need to prepare for our next redistricting?
So for us, redistricting has already started. Our GIS manager, Scott Hamilton, is already in communications with the census. We get a specific redistricting package back from the census. So from our perspective, the time that precinct lines will be frozen so we can get the shape files, and everybody agrees that the shape files are accurate so that we can get those sent off to the census, so that when we get that information back from the census, who lives in those precincts and where their residences are in the precincts is already pre-populated within those precincts with the census layers also embedded within that. From our perspective, it's nearly here. So we are already preparing to be able to send all the information that we need to send off to be able to get back what you will need to be able to redistrict. A thing that we are thinking through right now is for at least 3 redistricting sessions, we've used a Maptitude for redistricting. So Maptitude is a huge GIS program. There's a lot in there that we would never need, so they have a just for redistricting product that we have used. There are more and more open source redistricting tools that are available. So we are in the process of familiarizing ourselves with what can they do, how do they work, what are they capable of, so that there is a process that if outside groups wanted to present to the General Assembly for their consideration during during that 2031 sounds a long way away, but it's really from this perspective, it's not. So that if you have developed a statewide plan, either for the Congress, the House, or Senate, and you want to hand that over to nonpartisan staff so that members can have it and see what their ideas are, we need to understand what flavors of products, what kind of applications that other people may be using to be able to present those shape files to us. And we will do what we've always done is in the LRC library, there will be a computer with Maptitude, everything that members and staff would have available here to be able to do redistricting would be available to members of the public in the LRC library, so they could either come to understand it or actually use it to potentially produce districts and complete maps.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions? If there's no other questions, we will let you go to college.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Enjoy it.
members
Thank
of the
you very
committee.
much for your time. Okay. So our next presenter is the KentuckyWired Operations Company. I believe we have one individual coming in through Zoom and two others here in person. So I'm going to let you introduce yourselves with your names and titles, if you would, for the committee.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Morphonius. I'm the CEO of KentuckyWired Operations Company. I'm here today along with our COO, Tom Snyder, and our legal counsel, Patrick Hughes.
Thank you very much. Is the green button on? Okay.
Good morning, my name is Tom Snyder. I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Again, my name is Tom Snyder. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for KentuckyWired Operations. I joined KentuckyWired after about 30 plus years in telecommunications, where I've served in various roles considering engineering, IT-specific engineering for many of the baby bells, and also with AT&T. In those roles, I've also served on the frame relay and ATM forums associated with the creation of standards for IT considerations. So I bring a wealth of experience to this role. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Patrick Hughes. I'm outside counsel to KentuckyWired Operations Company, LLC. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you all for being here. One of the reasons we're here, for a couple of reasons, is sort of your relationship to KCNA, the procurement process. Probably have some other questions, but I'll let you open if you have a presentation or some comments to make, we'd welcome them at this time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator Williams. I don't have a particular presentation, and first off, I apologize for not being there in person today, but I had some scheduling conflicts that I had to address. I think just by introduction as to us as KentuckyWired, we should kind of go through who we are and why we're here. Let me start off with just kind of giving you a little background of KentuckyWired Operating Company, also known as QUOC, our acronym. We're a private for-profit LLC and a special purpose entity that was formed to design, build, operate, maintain the fiber optic network in the Commonwealth, also known as the NGKI Edge system. As you know, a separate special purpose entity called Open Fiber Kentucky Company LLC, also known as Excelicom, was hired by the Commonwealth of Kentucky to sell excess capacity on the network and generate revenue. And you also may be aware that the Commonwealth has Commonwealth Open Fiber and Quoc are party to the wholesale agreement that governs the commercialization of the network by Open Fiber. KentuckyWired Infrastructure Company is also referred to as Quick, is a nonprofit corporation created by the Commonwealth to facilitate the financing of the NGKIH system, and Quoc are a party to a separate agreement called the Project Implementation Agreement, which governs the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the NGKIH system. The project implementation agreement set forth our obligations in respect of the design, build, operation, and maintenance of the NGKIH system. Since we're a special purpose entity, we entered into a contract with the NGKIH Design Build LLC to discharge the obligations under the project implementation agreement related to designing and building the NGKIH system, and a contract with LTS Kentucky Managed Technical Services LLC to discharge the obligation of the project implementation agreement related to the operations and maintenance of the project, which is the phase that we're in presently. And all these contracts, were reviewed by the Commonwealth. Our design build obligations were completed, but our operations and maintenance obligations are still ongoing, and they will continue to be ongoing until September of 2045. Okay, so with that, I'll be glad to take any questions that the committee has today.
One item I'd like to ask. So you mentioned are you considered a special purpose government entity, which it's indicated that you were, and how does that impact the model procurement code? Do you follow the model procurement code? Do some of these other entities follow that? Are they also SPGEs, as you seem to, like Quick and the other operations?
Yes, we have in our contract particular periods of time where we have to, look at refreshing our equipment and also do kind of a market test on our service provider to kind of, see where they are in the market. So we put out we reached that first milestone of it's called Schedule 19 in our contract, that requires us to do a market test of services and try to determine if our present service provider or someone else would be the best value for money for the Commonwealth. So we put out an RFP in June of 23, and we considered a number of proposals, including one from Open Fiber and one from our existing service providers and others. And we ended up through that process confirming that the existing service provider would continue on. But know that did not go through the procurement channels you may be used to with the Commonwealth, because it was a private procurement that was handed down to us through our contract to manage ourselves. So that's why we did it according to this Schedule 19 that's in our contract.
Rob, pardon the interruption. Senator, just a legal clarity. you referenced a special purpose governmental entity. I just wanted to make the distinction. Kentucky Wired Operations Company, LLC, is a private for-profit entity. It was formed for a special purpose, and that special purpose was solely to do the design, build, operations, and management functions that Mr. Morphonius has described. The other entities involved included Quick, Kentucky Wired Infrastructure Company, Incorporated, which is a Kentucky nonprofit corporation, and as Mr. Morphonius indicated, that entity was formed to facilitate tax-exempt bond financing for the overall project. That is what we refer to as an instrumentality of the Commonwealth, as it is controlled by the Commonwealth, even though it is a for-profit corporation under Kentucky. So that's the distinction between Quick and Quock. So Quock operates outside of normal government procurement processes as a private entity.
But Quick would be considered a governmental process, or is I'm just listening to you.
And I apologize for overlording the response, but it is a private nonprofit corporation, but it is controlled and therefore an instrumentality of the Commonwealth.
Okay, very good. So what is your relationship with KCNA? Did they initially, did you win? How did Quock come into existence? Did it win a bid? These other corporations? What's your relationship with KCNA? Do you have any other contractors besides that had been mentioned that you manage? But what's your relationship to KCNA then?
Rob, do you want to take
That's
that?
me. I can briefly tell you that Quock, even though we're now in the operations and development phase, is the developer of this project. And we were awarded this project as a public-private partnership, which includes all those items I listed as design, build, operate, and maintain for a 30-year term after construction is complete. So our relationship with KCNA, they are the authority for the Commonwealth that oversees the project for the Commonwealth. And we are the developer that design, builds, operate, and maintains the project for the Commonwealth.
Okay, so do they provide you, what kind of direction do they provide you when you're making technical decisions on the network? Do you make all the technical decisions, or do they come in and talk to you?
Yes. Yes, sir. Most of the responsibility is handed down to us. If we need to do something that's, call it a change to the project, then there's a process to do that. So if we wanted to add on additional customers, or if we want not so much customers, but sites, or if we wanted to do a change in equipment, or do some work that's outside of the normal operations and maintenance of the project, then we do that through changes. Change orders.
Yes. Co-Chair Lockett.
Can you describe your relationship with Excelicom and how that relationship is currently working?
We are part of a three-party contract between KCNA, the Commonwealth, ourselves, and Excelicom. Excelicom has the responsibility of taking the excess capacity that we built into the network and monetizing that on behalf of the Commonwealth. And there's a profit sharing mechanism there with the Commonwealth for them to do that.
When there is excess capacity on the network to be sold, how is that relayed to you, or is it relayed to you, or do you relay that to Excelicom?
For there to be a connection to the network, it requires a change. So we go through a process on that to get approval. The Commonwealth has to approve the change to add a new site, new customer, or for the sale of fiber. So we do that again through the change process.
One more question, Mr. Chair.
Proceed.
Are you aware of any changes or any new customers that were possibly added without going through that process?
We were notified of some connections to the network that that KCNA had found, and yes, we were made aware of that.
Thank you.
Very good. Do you also have other people besides Excelicom on your network? I know COT maintains state users. Is there other dark fiber that is not, or other lit fiber that either COT or Excelicom is not managing or are in a relationship? Do you have any other third parties?
There's no other parties to our contract that is the wholesale contract. The wholesale contract is just with Excelicom, the Commonwealth, and us.
Okay, but are there other third parties that make use of your network? Well, let me back up. What's your relationship with COT? How does that relationship work independent of Excelicom in that? They do connections too?
That's an operational question. I'm going to defer that to Tom because he works with the COT quite often.
Sure.
So,
So COT, the Administrative Office of the Courts, KCTCS, post-secondary education, all of them are current users of the network, but that change procedures are, so the addition of them to the network, as an example, if they weren't on it, now they want to be, will be through the Schedule 6 changes of the PIA of the contract and are administered through KCNA. So if COT, we work daily with COT, but the change procedures that go through those run through KCNA. So KCNA is sort of the filter of the contract, if you will. But again, I utilize, currently today, we have all of those off the top of my head, KCTCS, post-secondary, AOC, COT, what we generically refer to as agencies of the Commonwealth. I know that's probably not the correct technical term, but from an operations perspective, we view those all as end user customers of the network.
So all of those requests, including Excelicom's, go through KCNA before they come to you?
Excelicom's is unique in that it has a separate change under Schedule 1 of the wholesale contract, and the determination of that change process is now currently in litigation. So it previously was required that a Schedule 1 change under the wholesale required a Schedule 6 change under the PIA, and it's my understanding, and I'll look to my legal counsel, that that is currently a member of one of the ongoing disputes.
Very good. Representative H?
Thank you. So my understanding is that your only customer is KCNA, which is a taxpayer-funded entity. Can you give me an idea of how much annual revenue KCNA pays Quoc to operate the network?
yes, I can address that. We get paid an amount every month out of appropriations for just our operations. Our company consists of Tom, myself, and a controller. So we manage the project as a developer, and then have our service provider that works for us is Legcore, and they are as I said, the service provider, and we pay them as well. So all those payments come through the Commonwealth's appropriations. Our service provider is plus or minus around $1 million a month for that. And then for Quoc, we're a couple $100,000 a month to pay us for our oversight and management of the operations and of the project.
Okay, so all in the ballpark of $1 million and a quarter a month. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's generally.
Okay, thank you.
Representative, just a one clarification. That does not include the debt service on the original project financing. That
Correct.
is all bundled into what we refer to most often as the availability payment under the terms of the PIA.
Thank you very much. So, in this process, have you ever? We hear a lot of squirrel tales, and we hear that So I've heard some tales here recently on that, and I know with any vendor, we're probably going to have the Wireless Service Providers Association testifying that that's a reality no matter what you do. Has there any? Who is responsible when there's squirrel chews for actually paying for that? I mean, is that contract? Is it KCNA? Is it Quack? Is it Lead Core? Have you had disputes on that? Is it clear where those responsibilities lie for an excessive number? We've got a lot of squirrels here. Maybe we need some more squirrel hunters. Okay.
So
Don, I'll let you go ahead
Yeah,
and
I'll
answer
address
that one.
that first. Yes, squirrel chews are real. They do enjoy chewing on cable. That gets the gnawing functions that they do enjoy. Basically, the ongoing operations of the network is handed down to our service provider through the PIA, through me, down to the service provider. And so the repair of all squirrel chews and any other outages are the responsibility of the service provider. The focus of those, per our contract, is when a site, which is a defined term, in other words, somebody on a list of sites is down, our immediate response is to go in and fix those sites. The repair of the actual cable itself is also the obligation of the service provider. It's just under different time frame requirements as no services are out.
So are you? So you don't have any other extraordinary expenses from a extraordinary number of squirrel chews? That's all bundled in the contract, and there's just time frames by which they have to be repaired.
Correct. The time frames that have to be repaired are referred to as site specifications. We have three different categories of sites. One of them is dual homed, they're called SLA1s. One of them is single homed back to our network. And then the third one is a utilization for some dark fibers that were in place previously. So the responsibility to respond in a timely manner is based upon the sites that are being affected by the squirrels. And again, by many other things. It's the euphemism that it's squirrels, but storms, tree limbs, car wrecks,
Right.
all sorts of things cause damage to a network.
So I think the largest single user is probably somebody who falls under the legislature's purview, which is Kentucky Department of Education, the education technology on that. When something goes down, I mean, you don't have a direct relationship with Katie. It's not through COT.
No.
You mentioned that it's a separate relationship. How does that work, and what is the response time to a school that is down because of a chew?
Yeah, so the Kentucky Department of Education has a contract now with Zayo. It was originally a different company name, but they've been acquired. And it's my understanding that Zayo has a relationship with Excelicom to utilize fibers that they're made available. So it's under the same terms that we're not involved in anything to do with Excelicom's outages or Zayo's outages with regards to KDE.
Okay, so it sounds like you're really not involved with any customers per se. You're just working with operators. Is that it?
Our term for customers would be those that I've mentioned. COT, as a representative into all of the agencies of the executive branch, the administrative office of the courts, KCTCS. Post-secondary education is also a customer. And again, I put the air quotes in customer because, again, it may be a different term associated with you. They are all made available to be served by the network through the change process through KCNA.
Okay. Very good. Do we have any other questions? I think we have some customers here then, and perhaps we'll let the customers testify. Maybe we'll have some other questions after that, if you all would remain here a little bit
I certainly can.
on that. Very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
then-
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could call the Wireless Internet Service Providers Association, I think some Kentucky internet service providers. These are the customers. I know that as you're coming to the table, I know the committee has talked to me, and I'm very concerned. The operations is one thing, but the customers through the Commonwealth are who we're really looking at. They're our constituents. They're our responsibility for the schools, and so thank you all for being here and being available. If you would introduce yourself and give us the customer perspective.
Well, thank you for having us today, Senator and members of the committee. We really appreciate it. My name is Stephen Schwerbel. I am the State Director of Advocacy for WISPA, which is the Trade Association for Broadband Without Boundaries, formerly known as the Wireless Internet Service Providers Association, which you're familiar with. And I'm joined here today by two of our members, John Gill, who's WISPA's volunteer state coordinator to help organize our members. And he's also the owner of KentuckyWired Broadband, and TJ Scott, who's the COO and General Manager of Broadlink Broadband. So they are your local providers here, and I'm kind of our policy person. Just to give you a little bit of background on WISPA and who we are and how our members provide service in many of your districts. Our members are primarily focused on solving the rural digital divide as quickly and efficiently as possible. So in that use, they deploy a significant amount of fiber broadband, but they also use reliable fixed wireless broadband, which is a signal sent over radio waves to jump over those wired infrastructure challenges in order to reach customers quickly and efficiently. Their networks can be built at a tenth of the capital cost of a comparable fiber network and in a fraction of the time. It's a great tool for deploying to rural, sparsely populated areas and bringing communities online quickly. Our concern here today kind of involves and begins from the dispute between Excelicom and KCNA, which you've alluded to in previous comments. In April of this year, ISPs that use KentuckyWired for their middle mile service received 30-day disconnection notices, informing them that they could potentially need to find new middle mile service in the near future. Those notices were sent due to an ongoing lawsuit that we've mentioned between KCNA and Excelicom. This sudden notice caused significant concerns among WISPA members and other ISPs that use that network. Many of our members have no recourse to other middle mile service, and for those who do, the process to move to a new provider could require anywhere from 6 to 9 months to make that changeover happen. Had those disconnections gone through this spring, results would have been catastrophic for Kentucky. Nearly 5,000 families could have lost broadband service, as well as hospitals, telehealth centers, business parks, libraries, schools, and churches across the Commonwealth. These disconnections would have also jeopardized partnerships with the U.S. Department of Agriculture through the Broadband Technical Assistance Program, which is a program that provides financial assistance to ISPs who provide broadband service in hard-to-reach rural areas. For ISPs who could find a way to make that changeover happen quickly, costs would have gone up significantly to provide service to those last-mile homes and businesses that they cover. Thankfully, KCNA did not begin pulling out connections this spring, and KCNA's network executive director, Doug Hendricks, did work with the ISP community to make sure that Kentuckians stayed online through the beginning of this process. We appreciate that. However, KCNA still has not released an RFP to potentially identify or begin the process of identifying a new administrator, pending the results of the court decisions, of course. And so we remain in a slightly murky situation that will likely extend through this year. Last week, WISPA members again received questions regarding their ability to find access to other middle mile providers, indicating that disconnections again may be coming soon. But they did not offer a definitive timeline or transition plan. While we greatly appreciate KCNA's willingness to work with providers, without a clear transition plan or timeline for disconnections, Kentucky's ISPs and their customers are left with no clear path forward. Without essential broadband service and with little or no choice of alternatives in many rural parts of the Commonwealth, the impact would be devastating for education, public safety, and businesses and homes, all of which rely on those affordable broadband connections. Kentucky, as you know, has invested millions of taxpayer dollars to build this middle mile network that expands broadband access to every county in the Commonwealth. The investment in paying dividends today in expanding broadband access, especially in rural communities that would otherwise remain unserved. So WISPA, to conclude my prepared remarks and open it up to questions, encourages you to work with KCNA to ensure that we have clear timelines for the transition and to ensure that Kentucky Wired stays online for those ISPs who rely on it throughout the duration of any transition that may or may not be forthcoming based on the court process that we're going through. We just want to make sure that we do not let today's customers that are served become the unserved customers of tomorrow. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Very good. I have a question. So, how many total customers does your organization represent? Not just ISPs, but customers. We're talking about hundreds or thousands, or if we took all of them.
I'll go ahead and take that because that was represented very well up in D.C. So if you take all of the customers across the nation, we are the third largest ISP in the nation. So that's all of WISPA's customers that their ISPs represent. So if you take that, we're up there with Spectrum and above Windstream and above all the other big competitors. We're the third largest in the nation.
How about in Kentucky itself that are dependent upon Kentucky Wired?
In Kentucky, as a state coordinator, the numbers will flex a little bit, but I would say around about we are looking with all of our memberships somewhere between 15 to 20,000 customers.
15 to 20,000 customers that are subject to disconnect?
They're subject to either reliability issues or disconnections due to this. So, they may go from 2 connections for a reliability stance down to 1. That would be a problem because then they're leaning on 1 middle mile fiber, or they could lose connectivity altogether.
Given that you serve very rural areas in general, how many of those customers would have other alternatives rather than the way they're connected right now? If you lose,
if you take that number across the board of 15 to 20,000, I would say probably financially feasible options. Of course, we were looking between 20 to 15% or 15 to 20%.
Those would be the only ones that would have
options. They would have other options. I myself cover areas that cell phone connectivity it doesn't even work. You go, as I refer to it, I cover the hilltops and the hollers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So essentially, if we take the 20K for easy, we could have 15,000 users with no other alternative, or having had a serious disruption.
Yes.
If things just go down. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, good to see you as well.
Good to see you.
If for some reason these 15 to 20,000 customers were disconnected, what is the time frame that the majority of them, or even some of them, would be looking at to be connected to another provider?
Months, if not years. To be connected to an affordable, reliable connectivity, months, if not years. It currently, to get to some of those locations and build fiber or build fiber to a new middle mile provider, back to a backbone of a wireless provider, just to get the paperwork going on some of this stuff takes 3 to 4 months just to get the paperwork. That's not even construction. You haven't even spun up construction yet. So, if you're talking about getting connectivity out to these customers as a last mile solution on a different connectivity plan, whether that be wired or wireless, you can increase that to somewhere between 6 to 9 months, maybe years.
And that would be, so those that would have an option currently, what would be the time frame there?
Current options, I could see them getting something spun up in as little as a week or as much as a month. They depending on, of course, their financial capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Representative All?
I just have 2 quick questions, Mr. Chairman, if I may. You're 15 to 20,000 ish. I know
Yeah.
that's an ish. Are those primarily individuals, or is it a 90-10?
I would say 90-10 business.
So you do have some businesses represented in this. Okay. And if I heard the other math correctly, you said 15 to 20% would be disconnected. You said several of your connections are the redundant connection. So of your 15 to 20,000-ish customers, are you primarily the redundant connection, the secondary, or are you primarily the primary connection?
No, we are the primary connection. Just like yourself, I'm sure you just have one connection into your home. The primary.
Actually, I've got two, but that's just me.
Yeah. But most people just have one, some wired or wireless connection into their home. So on that scenario, those primary and secondary connections, I'm talking about on the ISP level. So some of us have a primary and secondary connection, allows us to increase reliability. But one of those connections would be KentuckyWired Excelicom connectivity. So if that is gone, then we're at one connection, which a squirrel chew could take out, a truck.
But they're
an
still
accident.
connected.
Yeah, but we don't have a good reliable.
You don't have a redundant thing if something happens. Okay, so your businesses they're redundant connected, but Excelicom is one of those two connectivities, so they would still have connectivity if that went through.
Yes. So, but that's not the case on all fronts. Right. That's the case on some fronts, and it just depends on, like me, when we talked about the flooding that happened down by the river. I was there. I actually pulled the fiber physically across the river myself, and so when that was brought back up, I looked for a secondary connection because that was my primary connection. And it is taken to the end of the month for construction. So I have a close date on that secondary connection, the end of this month.
Okay.
So it's taken from all the way to that to now to get the construction started and everything complete.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I would. So we're in a situation with BEAD money or the broadband money that there's been a change. I don't know if members are relative, but there was just a notice, really short notice, that for eligibility, they are now taking into account the wireless internet service providers on that. So right now our maps are changing on who's eligible to receive support. I believe that's closing here like very quickly, right?
Yes.
And so if they take away that support in the future, we will then have people that would not be able to get broadband or BEAD money to support that possibility.
Yes. So I have talked to multiple people. There are two fronts there. There are the front of, hey, we have a wireless provider that has applied for BEAD and is going to get BEAD, but now their backbone has been cut off and they've lost all their customers. By the time they're ready to build, they're out of business because of this issue. Or their projects have relied on BEAD and relied on Excelicom KentuckyWired to get the connectivity for the BEAD project. And now they have to reevaluate that whole project because of either a timeline or an extensive build out cost to get that fiber to that location where Excelicom was already willing to get there.
The other scenario that I think you're gesturing to, Senator, is to say that if some of these locations do truly lose service and no longer have any options, there is not likely to be another forthcoming significant federal investment in broadband expansion infrastructure. So the state or private providers would need to find funds to reconnect those houses that would lose service if this situation happens.
Right. That's one of the problems. People who have it may lose it and not have that federal assistance that. And these, again, are the more rural areas in our communities. Very good. One other thing. So there has been a bid out. I think they had a bidders conference or whatever for a new bid in the future. I think some of you may have attended that. Is there anything? Is that a practical? I mean, how soon can that practically be implemented? Was it practical? Was it realistic in terms of maintenance, or what? Are you going to find somebody who's willing to do this under the existing terms of the contract? Might be one way to ask this, but can you give me an opinion for whoever was at that most recent bidders conference?
So at that meeting, if I may, was on. There it goes. at that meeting, if I may, they were asking a lot of questions to attendees to see what we would like to see in the RFP process. As far as timelines of being able to spin up a wholesale provider, should the relationship be dissolved between the current wholesale provider, that's up to higher pay grades than myself. I do try to look like I'm of a higher pay grade. That's why I wore the tie today. If I'd have known I didn't have to today, I probably wouldn't have. But regardless, it's going to take some time. I would imagine. The whole idea of bringing in another wholesale provider, in order for it to be feasible to a wholesale provider to come in, there needs to be customers on the network. If the relationship is dissolved and all of the customers are kicked off of the network that currently Excelicom is providing wholesale service to, so for example, myself or John or whoever else is on the network, if we're kicked off, another wholesale provider comes in, they don't have us as a customer, because why would we put ourselves through that again? And also, are we even going to be there anymore? So there's a lot of things that are up in the air that I feel like is to the detriment of the overall Kentucky Wired network, aside from just, what we're looking at here.
So have customers, there's a lawsuit, and you're seeing paperwork being sent to you as part of this. Do you feel like the Commonwealth's customers, your customers, are being considered in this lawsuit, but you see nothing but negative, or you see positives? What?
It doesn't appear that the customers, the end users, the residents that are out in the hills and hollers that John referred to, Owen County residents, Wayne County residents across the Commonwealth, none of them are being considered. This is purely a business consideration from my point of view.
Do you feel like you have any recourse as an organization for your customers? What?
That's why we're here today. We're hoping for this kind of recourse. There is, as far as our ability to actually do anything, no, we can't buy service directly from Kentucky Wired, which is what we would like to be able to just flip that to. Should that be the outcome where Excelicom is removed, we still need to be able to have access to this network. It's a public network, and we feel like we should have access to it as a service provider.
Okay. One final question is, so you, even though you do wireless, you have a lot of wire out there as well. Do you find that the number of squirrel chews on Kentucky Wired is excessive, is being factored in properly? Do you have any basis for that?
I would love to weigh in on that, and I would say that yes, it's excessive. Since the first of the year to today, problems or squirrel chews. I have been offline on that fiber for 72 plus hours, and over the last 3 months there have been multiple outages, either due to damage or due to property squirrel chews. I know some of that is big natural disasters, and I understand, the flooding, but I do think this is an excessive amount, and especially the way it was pitched to us of, hey, we're gonna connect schools, we're gonna connect healthcare. This is going to be a reliable network, and I'm just not seeing that reliability.
Yeah, I haven't seen the amount of outages that John has, but our outages are pretty frequent, as far as 1 to 2 minute outages, maybe somebody moving a plug or whatever, on that network. Our redundant network that we're running with another provider, it's down at least once a month. So at some point we have something down, but had it not been for redundancy, we'd be completely down. But I haven't had anything that I've had to actually escalate to Excelicom in some time.
Thank you. Representative Ball?
I think during the previous testimony, are there SLAs in place for this? Are they not meeting the SLAs? Are there penalties for not meeting the SLAs? Tell me about that.
So my SLA with Excelicom, and that's who it's with, I get a certain amount of credit once they're down for a certain amount of time. There is some clauses to that, like the flooding, that was a natural disaster. But, squirrel chews or maintenance that's not notified or things like that do fall under that SLA. And there is a credit on the account, and then after it reaches a certain amount of time, just the whole month is credited. So there is SLAs on that. My biggest problem is how long it's taken to find some of these outages. And in those outages, I have found them first, and I have notified the providers and saying, hey, it's here. And instead of jumping through all the hoops that were in the previous hearing, I'm just like, hey guys, this fiber's on the ground. I'm holding it in my hand. That was last week at Friday at 4:30. I'm like, hey, a truck ran over it. We have video of the truck, and I need you guys here. And they're just like, oh, okay, we'll head that way. And I called the fiber splicing crews, and it was an hour before they were notified.
And so the person or the entity responsible for meeting the SLAs and fixing those SLAs, in this case, would that be Accelecom?
So from my understanding, Accelecom then turns around and notifies the Kentucky Quawk, and then they notified LeadCorp. LeadCorp gets on the scene to investigate, and then LeadCorp notifies the fiber splicers.
Man, that's quite a lot of
basically
hops or opportunities for failures in the chain.
Before LeadCorp, I call in as soon as I see the outage, because I have tons of network reporting that does that. I call in and I say, hey, there's an outage. They say, yes, we see there's no light or whatever passing, and I can drive the 21-mile lateral that I am on before LeadCorp gets on scene.
But LeadCorp is the end of the chain that goes out there and fixes it, and they have
LeadCorp. Then they have a fiber splicing contractor that they call to come on scene.
Okay, so you said when you call LeadCorp, they see that there is no. So I want to, if I may
Continue.
Okay, are they not proactively monitoring outages? If you call them and then they confirm, there's an outage, is there not like some kind of dashboard? Like I worked with COT like back in the day, and so I know enough about this just to be dangerous. But there should be some kind of dashboard that says, alert, danger, Will Robinson, we have an outage. Is that not happening?
To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, and that's just on the transparency of the customer. I notify Accelecom.
And then it goes up the chain.
Then it goes through 6 other people before it gets there. But I do have the Danger Will Robertson notifications on my phone. Hey, fiber's been out. And, within a minute, I get a notification. So I get my phone screaming at me, and then I have to wait multiple hours before someone even investigates.
I don't know whose responsibility whenever somebody comes back to the table, but I'd really like to understand when there's an outage, if it is LeadCorp, who's monitoring that, if they have some kind of dashboard, and what is the response time or SLA or this expected thing, and if that's automated. There's too many chains in this.
I would agree.
I mean, we're all in IT. It should be automated. It should not take a phone call. So I'd like to know more about that, Chairman, if possible.
Thank you very much. Co-Chair Lockett?
Thank you.
Comments on that, perhaps?
There's a lot of stuff going on there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me in terms of the actual fiber, who owns that?
My understanding is that it is KentuckyWired that owns that fiber, especially the fiber I'm on, the 21-mile long lateral. That lateral runs from Lexington all the way into Stamford, Kentucky.
Okay.
We believe, though, that there may be instances where Accelecom has needed to build its own fiber link from the middle mile KentuckyWired network to the ISP that it's providing service to. And in that case, Accelecom, I believe, would own that particular piece of fiber. It depends on where the end ISP connects into the KentuckyWired network, and if there needed to be some additional construction work to reach that ISP from KentuckyWired to the end ISP.
Okay, so if it's Accelecom that owns it and there are disconnections that are made, I'm assuming then there would have to be new lines built.
Yeah,
significant capital going out to build
just
those.
like Steve said. My connection to the KentuckyWired network to my networking equipment is 1,500 feet long, so it wouldn't cost much. But TJ, to my understanding, your lateral off the KentuckyWired into your office is much longer.
We're a little bit longer. We're over a mile from there. There's and we were actually using our own fiber to bridge that. We're in some conversation about how to get that moved. We have since sold our wired and our fiber network in that community to another provider. And so we have to get off of that, and at the same time, we have to have that built anyway. But yeah, there's some ownership issues there.
Again, going back to that issue of the lack of clarity, that kind of is our primary focus. It's not clear. Excelicom might be able to sell that fiber to an ISP that wants to expand that connection. They might have ownership of that fiber that they want to transfer to someone else. There's just kind of a certain amount of uncertainty about what would happen to that fiber connection and whether we'd need to build around that or over it, or whether we would be able to kind of purchase that and continue to access it through that. And I think that depends on each ISP that connects to KentuckyWired.
So if there's a disruption in service, do you have to track down the owner of that particular line?
I would say on my case, no, because there's been so many service outages. I know who the owner is, and I know the phone number memorized.
Well, what I've been told is by the executive director of KCNA, when I questioned him about all of this, when I got the letter, was that they're identifying, I guess, present tense with their service provider to find where foreign connections are tied into their network to identify which ones KentuckyWired and Excelicom are interfaced with to later kick those out. So that's where that break point would happen, is actually where KentuckyWired's asset meets the third-party asset, whether it's Excelicom owning it or myself owning it or whoever. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So you said, final question, you said you're here for relief. What would you like us to do? What do you think is possible to be done in this situation? Do you have any suggestions?
At this point, working closely with KCNA and Doug Hendricks, as well as the governor's office, to ensure that there's clarity around the process, clear timelines, a clear plan for when the RFP will be deployed to identify the potential, if needed, next administrator of this network, and to provide our members some certainty on when they should expect, if they need to expect disconnections, when those disconnections should need to be expected before a 30-day notice period goes out, because as I think we've made clear, the 30 days just doesn't give our members enough time to make other plans to be able to continue to keep their customers online.
In a perfect world, we would like to see the brakes pumped on the whole project and on the whole decision making with this until a new wholesale provider is chosen and put into place. That would eliminate any disruption. End result would be we want no disruption in services.
Right. So you don't.
Yeah, I would agree with that. On both business front of the business that's coming in, there's customers already on the network, so there's revenue coming in that they can work with the state of Kentucky on, and they're willing to bid on it because there is customers already on the line, as well as from our front, keeping the connectivity and just this smooth transition of, we understand that there may be a brief switch over period of, overnight, hey, we're going from this person to this person. We understand that may happen, but none of this, hey, we're going to disconnect you and best of luck in finding someone else kind of situation.
The transportation cabinet isn't going to shut down the river bridges in Louisville if they have some falling out with Riverlink. I would expect that KentuckyWired could do the same, or KCNA could do the same, keep the traffic moving, and then find a new provider.
I would think that would be possible. Let's hope. I think we probably concur in that. So very good. Unless there's any other questions here, I appreciate the other agencies' patience here. I appreciate this testimony. I think you've represented yourself well, and we'll be talking in the future. How
We're
that
happy
goes.
to answer any follow-up questions. Thank you very much.
And
Thank you, committee.
You're welcome. And as far as I'm concerned, no customer should ever be disconnected. They can keep going across that bridge,
Yeah.
be it virtual or physical.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next up is the Administrative Office of the Courts. Thank you for your patience. If you would introduce yourselves. I know you have quite a few projects going on, and maybe it also depends on some of the previous conversation. I don't know, but I know you're connected in there on KentuckyWired as well.
Good morning, members of the committee. I'm Zach Ramsey. I'm the director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, and I'll let Charles Byers here introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Charles Byers. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the Judicial Branch here in Kentucky.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to come present, talk about our previous submission, our form submissions, and also give you a little bit of background just on what our Office of Information Technology does for the entire judicial branch and that's housed within AOC. I'm going to go through just a couple of slides real quick and then turn it over to Charles. As Chair Williams mentioned, we've got a lot of applications. Many of these were built and developed in-house over the last few decades based on our needs at the time, our resources, our funding, and often difficult to find appropriate solutions that work for court operations. But we maintain about 280 IT applications presently. Some are on roadmaps, some are just purely in maintenance mode that have been around for a while. And just give you a little more information on the size and scope of our branch of government, the support that we provide, application support services. That's not just for AOC, but it's across the entire judicial branch, Court of Justice. That's 3,300 staff and 413 elected officials across the state. Of course, we support their all the equipment, everything that's provided, not just to the employees, but to the judicial partners, again, across the state. It covers all those individuals and all the real estate we manage, the 229 courthouses and judicial facilities that we own and or maintain and operate in all 120 counties in the Commonwealth. And the other item on here, and Charles is going to talk a little bit more about that, is an existing system that's of course very important to our core operation, is that we provide the visual and digital audio recording equipment for all our trial court proceedings. One of the things that's very unique, mostly unique about the Court of Justice in Kentucky is we use that as our official transcription, our official court record. We haven't used court reporters or written transcript in a long, long time. And there's many states to this day that are still shocked to find out that that's how we operate. The company that we work with brings a lot of technological enhancements. They have a set refresh cycle. So one of our goals, of course, is to align our funding and resources to their enhancements. So we're continually availing ourselves of the latest technology that they bring. We have to put those in every courtroom in the state. And there's a lot of enhancements we know that are coming with AI and things that we want to make sure that we take advantage of. So that gives you a little bit of idea on the scope of our operation. In addition, in ITS, we do some other things that you may be aware of, professional education and training for all our staff. We have a research and statistics department that responds to all our public requests from legislators, everybody else that comes through, that we're able to share court system data, aggregated statistical data, all the information that supports the public and other governmental bodies, all the MOUs that we have sharing data with other agencies that support their operations. All that comes through and touches our research and statistics department. We also process more than 1 million criminal record background checks annually. A lot of that is to support expungement and other court functions. And then within AOC, we have 106 employees covering all these services, but approximately 42 FTEs cover what we think of as the traditional IT support, and that's for the entire judicial branch. And a current total budget of $38.7 million. Just give you a little size and scope information. And from here, I'm going to turn over to Charles, and he's going to go through the forms that we submitted, our July 15th submission, and provide a little more information and detail on where we are with those subjects. Unless there's any questions at this time, I'll turn it over to Charles.
Before you do that, Co-Chair Lockett has a question.
Thank you. Sorry
Yes,
to interrupt you. Just a quick question. When you talk about recording court proceedings, criminal background checks, those types of things, where are those stored, and how long do you keep those records?
Yes, thank you for that question, Representative. So there's two different answers because it's two different questions. So let's start with the criminal background check. So those background checks come from what we call our CourtNet database, which is the central repository, near real-time central repository for case information. And so that's where that information is stored. It is it's managed and maintained according to retention policies that really have nothing to do with background checks, but have to do with case information. And so that when you order a background check, technically it's accurate as of when I press print. And so if you went out and reoffended 5 minutes later, it's obviously not going to show up on that report. And so, but it's governed by those processes, those retention policies as it relates to that case information. I hope that answers that question.
And that information is usually good for 30 days. Is kind of been our policy and practice. If there's a need to refresh that, or if it's been more than 30 days, getting another background checks, for instance, using it for expungement purposes. But to Charles's point, that's the information that's coming out of CourtNet. If there's been an expungement, if there's been any change in the official court record, which is still a paper record, which is still officially housed in each one of the courthouses, they are the official custodians of the paper record that is the source data. If there's changes there based on the disposition of a case or later acquittal or changes, then that flows back through our case management systems into CourtNet to be picked up through those other processes, such as running a background check. But it all starts with the official paper record that's housed in the courthouses today.
Okay. What kind of privacy protections are there around either CourtNet or around those court proceedings recordings?
So let me answer this one in reverse order. So when it comes to those JAVS recordings, those audio video recordings of what takes place in court, the permissions or the the security that would go around those would be equivalent to the live event. So if it's a traffic court and it's open to the public, and if you want to, as a citizen, you can walk in and observe that court proceeding, you absolutely have the right to walk in there and request a copy of that recording with a nominal cost to cover our cost on that. If it is a sealed, a private hearing or a confidential hearing, you would not be able to do that. So it's the same as the live event, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and really, my question was in terms of the security online. So not necessarily walking into a courthouse and asking for it, but what kind of security is around CourtNet against hacking, against those types of things?
Yes. So the audio video recordings are not online, so they're housed in the courthouse. So those are as secure as the people who are guarding them. The CourtNet database is, we like to think it's secure. There are multiple layers of authentication based on role that you have to have an account to be able to access that CourtNet database. There is a public component, but it's very, very limited in the information that you could see. So like what's on the docket for today, that type of information. And so it's governed by that. There are many, many layers of security, many, many layers of permission based on your role in that case. And we're not aware of any. I've been there 15 years. I don't think we've had anybody compromise that.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Probably shouldn't say that.
Yeah, very good. And I just want a quick follow-up. Yes, so the video recordings are stored in each individual courthouse throughout the state, and there is no central repository.
That's correct. And they are all governed by the very lengthy retention schedules that are put out by the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court through those APs. Depending on the type of case it is, there could be 5, 10, 20-year retention schedules, and we have I think we just changed it. We have a 20-year retention schedule on the media that stores those audio video recordings, which could be a VCR or DVD, depending on that's presently. We're on a roadmap to change all that, but that's, as we sit here today, that's how we're still compiling that information and having to store that information in our courthouses.
Okay, I think you're going to talk about the funding you may need for changing it, or
for maintaining it, Senator. Yes, and I mean just to put a little bit more color on that, like those hang around for a while. So as an example, I would estimate that we have over 1 million VHS tapes squirreled away in our courthouses throughout the 120 counties, and they're full, and you can come in and request a copy of that. Now, it may take us a while to find a deck and be able to copy that for you, but those are maintained according to that schedule. All right. Well, thank you very much. I got a little dose of my own medicine sitting here this morning with all of the acronyms that were being thrown away, so I'm going to try really hard not to do that to you as we go through this. And Senator, this is our first time through this process. So this was our first time submitting these forms, and so I'll apologize if we did anything wrong or if we missed anything, and we certainly will welcome all of your questions as we go along. And I'm just going to kind of go through these in the order that they were submitted. So the first form talked about cybersecurity systems and was looking for information about any funding that we might need for any upgrades in that area. And I guess the good news is there's really not any. There aren't any systems that we know are outdated and need to be replaced that we're looking for additional funding for. I'm going to try to keep it high level here and not talk a whole lot about information security because it's one of those
We've
areas.
gone longer than we expected. So
Yes. Okay. So I'll just move, I'll move quickly along here. It's a small but dedicated team. We do have a certified information security specialist that leads that team, and we are working towards the Center for Information Security framework. That's sort of our scorecard as we go through that helps us get there. It's a small but dedicated team. We could obviously do more if we had more, and we would welcome opportunity to discuss that at some point in the future. In terms of future and planned development, it's a relatively short list that we're going to talk about here this morning. That's going to be good for lots of reasons. And so, but don't be fooled by that. Just because it's a sparse list doesn't mean that there's not a need. We just have a primary focus that we're going to talk about here in a second that's going to keep us busy for a while. So I would say that there are a lot of things that will be developed, that will be planned in the future. I would say right now they are kind of in a parking lot. Or in a backlog, but they're not yet on a roadmap. So we haven't mapped out when we're going to work on them because we know that it's not going to be anytime soon. One that I did want to draw attention to is an evidence-based risk tool that we've identified a need for within our court-designated worker unit. Those are the folks who deal with juveniles, and they use a risk tool today to decide what is appropriate, what needs to happen with that individual, with that youth. It has served us very well, but there have been some concerns about it because it's not a validated tool. It did come from the juvenile justice group, but there is concern that it's time to reevaluate that tool. And so it's not a lot of money. They're looking for $150,000 to redevelop that tool, that instrument, if you will. And then depending on the outcome of that process, it may or may not require a little modification or substantial development within that software that supports that process. And so I would say that we're sort of in the research and planning stage of that right now.
So you think you need this biennium? Is that what you're looking at, or is that a future?
Yes, sir. We anticipate, we've included that in some early submissions with A&R, and that will very likely be included in the October 1 submission, which is why we called it out here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Senator. Okay, this takes us to legacy systems. I'll move as quickly as I can, but I do want to make sure that we give you all the information that you need. So right now we are in the throes of the largest information technology project in the history of the Kentucky Court of Justice. We are replacing our trial court case management system in its entirety. Right now, we are still running two flavors of our trial court case management system. The oldest flavor is KY Courts 2. It is believe it or not, a Visual Basic 6 application. That product left Microsoft Extended Support in 2009. It's been a while. And so we've been living on borrowed time. We also have a newer technical currency version of that product that we call KY3 that we rolled out in 2017. And we have finally made it into 51 counties. It's old already. And so by the time, if we were to continue on with that, we made that recognition a few years ago that this is just not sustainable. And so we had the opportunity back in 2022 when there was some ARPA funding available to shift gears here and look for a vendor-provided solution that would come with that built-in technical currency so that we don't have to worry about, oh, shoot, this is now insecure or obsolete, and it will take us years and years and years to address that. And so that's what we're doing. It's actually going pretty well. It's a painful process, It's if you've ever been through a large software project, it is painful. And we have spoiled our users over all of those years by being able to do whatever they want. I would like this box to be green and sideways. Okay, we can do that, and now we can't. And so we're having to re-educate them on the value of vanilla and kind of going in that way. We anticipate that we will go live on File and Serve, which is the electronic filing component, later this year or early next year, kind of depending on how that shakes out. And then Enterprise Justice, which is the bigger case management product, either late 2026 or early 2027. And then we anticipate that statewide rollout will roll on through 2030. So in terms of funding, we are going to squeeze every penny that we can out of all of that ARPA funding, which we've been doing really successfully. And so you'll see that that's going to sort of ramp down, not in this coming biennium, but certainly in those future years. That's when the Commonwealth is going to need to pick up funding for that application.
Very good.
Question? Yes, Senator.
Representative Hodgson.
Yes. With ARPA funding, I know we've had a lot of discussion at the federal level about DOGE and cutting costs. Those unspent ARPA funds, are those at any risk for disappearing? Or?
I am told that they are not.
They're not. All right, good.
I am told that they are technically spent. I'm not an attorney, but I've learned to go like this.
And I know I joined AOC in the early December, right after the contract was signed and this was worked out. But I know our legal department, our financial department did a great job of kind of anticipating, as we went through this long implementation cycle, to obligate those funds and create an investment summary and come to the right agreements where we knew that it satisfied the federal requirements. So we feel even as the schedule may shift a little bit, which is anticipated in big IT implementations, that our goal is to use every dollar of that and leave nothing on the table for the implementation purposes, and only have to seek new funding in the future bienniums for the SaaS fees and the maintenance of and operation of this system going forward. So that's we feel pretty good. We're still on track with that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, good question, Representative. I think the logistics were it had to be obligated by the end of last year, which it was, and they have to be spent by the end of this year, which they will be. And so we're tracking it very closely. We'll make sure we won't lose a dime out of that money. The other legacy system that I wanted to call out here very quickly this morning is the case management system that we use for our specialty courts, which would be, and we call it pretrial. It's technically not a court, and drug court. Those applications, they're very different people groups going through very different processes, and they're also very old applications. These probably should have been retired a long time ago. We did enter into a contract in 2022 with a company called 5 Point that was acquired by Versaterm for a product called CaseWorks. It's yet another SaaS solution, software as a service solution. So you kind of lease it, if you will, instead of buying it and installing it. You lease access to the software from the vendor. Drug court went live earlier this year, and they've already received an update. They've already received a maintenance release, so we're already seeing the benefit of that. Is there a question?
Very good. I think we have a
Yes.
question for Representative Ball.
I'm just curious, any of the legacy systems, are they on the old mainframe?
No, sir. We don't have anything running on the old mainframe.
Thank you.
No COBOL.
No, sir. There's no. I had to think about it. In a past life, I worked with a company where we perpetuated COBOL in Visual Studio, believe it or not. But we don't have any of that. Very good. Good question.
Very good.
And so this was initially a grant-funded project, but those dollars are gone. And so that you're going to see $3.85 million in the upcoming biennium, and then it sort of scales up as we go along. But again, it's already proving to be the right decision to get out of this business. That's kind of what we're doing there. This brings us to maintenance and upgrades, and this is it's a heavy topic. By and large, everything that my department does is maintenance and upgrades. That's kind of all that we do. We don't really have a lot of separate budget units, so it's a little bit difficult to carve out and say, this is what they're doing. In fact, when Zach was asking me of these people, how many people do traditional IT work, and it was just telling because we've gone so long doing everything that you can with what you have that you sort of manage it that way. But we do want to specifically call out the JAVS solutions that we talked about, and that stands for Justice AV Solutions. It is the company that used to be called Jefferson Audio Video Systems. They're in Jefferson County, Kentucky. They are Kentucky proud. They are very unique in what they do. They do one thing and they do it very, very well. And so we continue to run those systems every time the contract comes up for renewal. We hope that they will have a competitor just because, and every time it comes around, they don't. And so we continue to work with them. But that's one area where they are the leftovers, right? When you get to the end of your budget cycle, what money do you have left? That's how many JAV systems you can afford to upgrade. And that's been problematic for us, especially as they have moved into a time in their company history when they're rapidly introducing new features into their product set. We're still upgrading all of our systems from a 7 to an 8. They've already announced a 9. It's going to come with a lot of exciting features, but we have no way of anticipating what we're doing. So what we're hoping to do is call them out as a separate budget item and try to work towards a 5-year refresh cycle on those systems in those courtrooms. Honestly, that's about as quick as we could upgrade them anyway, so I don't think we want to fool ourselves and pretend that we can do them any quicker than that, but this is kind of what it would look like in terms of funding. And so a little bit of investment will help us move those. $7.6 million in each biennium would support that, and then we would have a defined refresh cycle on all of those systems. And I know
Sorry, Charles.
yes.
And I believe in Charles, and I know this because Charles told me that I think in comparison to how most other states who are still using court reporters and more conventional technology, that I think we know fairly strongly that in the aggregate, this is not only very efficient, but it's a lot cheaper than what other states are paying for the systems, the previous systems of how they're capturing that information from a transcription standpoint.
Oh yeah, you can do the math on it real quick. So let's say you spend $72,000 on a courtroom system, and that's with all the bells and whistles and whatnot. And you're going to refresh it every 5 years. You can't hire somebody to take out the trash for that, let alone transcribe your things and all the other benefits that come along with it. I mean, you get to the end of the day, you press stop. The attorney wants to request a copy of that recording. You can burn it and hand it to him. And so it's immediate. Mid-trial, you want to play it back. Like the benefits are substantial, but it's absolutely a cost savings over traditional court reporters and transcriptions. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation. Looks to me like you're going down the right path to an operating budget and getting vendor-supported software instead of your own. So my one comment, we don't have any questions, is that my most demanded system that my constituents want to see from you is driver's license for you to take that back. So I don't see that here, nor is it likely to occur. But
Right.
A lot of people appreciate what the court system did in the past for driver's licenses. I know it's a challenging going forward, but
Yes, sir. They take that as a compliment.
yes,
They did a
that
good
is a
job.
compliment. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the auditor's office is, I appreciate your patience if you would come to the table on that. This went a bit longer than we anticipated. If you would introduce yourself, and then we can proceed. Okay.
Chairman Williams, Chairman Lockett, members of the committee, my name's Matt Fry. I'm excited to be here on behalf of the Auditor of Public Accounts Office. I'm the Executive Director of Public Policy for our office, so I lead up our legislative efforts, but I also am the Executive Director of our Office of State Government Audits and Technology. And I'm going to get to introducing my colleagues here, but if I'm aware of being brief given the length of the meeting at this point, but just to give you a bit of background on my position as the Executive Director of Office of State Government Audits and Technology. I have a team of about 25 total people, and our charge every single year is to audit the state government. And so any state entity, we audit them, and we produce two audits. That one is the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and then another is the single statewide audit of Kentucky. The ACFR is effectively a compiled financial statement of state entities in the executive branch of government. And then the SWAC looks at federal funding. So what have we done with the federal funding that our state has received? So with that being said, a little background about my position. I'll just hand it off to my colleagues here to introduce themselves.
Chairman Williams, my name is Jonathan Great. I'm the Commonwealth Ombudsman after a 30-year career, starting off with Senator Jay Williams, version 1.0 in 1994.
That was a year.
20 years with LRC, 4 years with Justice, 4 years with Auditor Harmon, and at the beginning of the Ball administration, she charged me with the commission of leading the Ombudsman's office as it moved from the Cabinet for Health and Family Services to the State Auditor's office. We do, for this half of Auditor Ball's office, we have two primary functions. We help people who are lost in the bureaucracy of CHFS and are looking for help, or they've gotten dropped in services. It is a help line function. We resolve complaints against CHFS. And the second half of what we do is we measure program performance within that cabinet. So, for example, a recent piece of federal legislation will key Kentucky's match rate in food stamps to our error rate in issuing and monitoring food stamp applicants' eligibility. It's my office that calculates, measures and calculates that error rate within Kentucky. We also do reviews for Medicaid, long-term care reviews. So in that sense, half of what we do is very, very similar to an audit function. We have a lot of similarity with what Director Fry does. I have with me my Deputy Ombudsman, Heather Wagers. Like with Representative Hodgson or Secretary Nemes, she also has some justice experience and is familiar to several members of your committee. Heather, if you'd like to say hello.
Hello. Again, my name is Heather Wagers. I've got nearly 20 years of experience in the executive branch. I've worked at both Kentucky State Police and part of the Justice Cabinet's executive branch office, as well as working for the Attorney General's office. And I am very pleased to be here. Thank you so much.
So we, per the committee's request, we submitted the ITALK forms, but per a conversation that I had with Chairman Williams, due to the cybersecurity nature, the private nature of it, we didn't want to discuss them directly here, but are eager and happy to meet with any individuals here of the committee privately if you would like to discuss that. However, with that being said, there are a few items that we wanted to touch on that Senator Williams highlighted that would be helpful to the committee in talking about what investments in IT are we looking at. And so to that point, Auditor Ball is very serious about our office being on the cutting edge of auditing. And we often interface with our peers throughout the United States as well as the federal government. We've met with the Department of State, we've met with Tennessee office, just to name two examples on what sort of AI-related offerings that they have to enhance their auditing procedure. So with that in mind, one thing that we have encountered in the past, if you recall, during the Harmon administration when he was auditor, one of the high-profile audits he did was of our unemployment insurance system. And when that audit was conducted, due to the large size of the data set, a common statistical technique as well as a common audit practice was used called sampling, where a portion of a data is cut and then viewed to see if it has any issues across an audit program. And you know, this is it's an effective audit technique. Like I said, it's a common audit technique, but it would be a great service to any sort of understanding of appropriated funds to understand the full scope of any sort of data set that we're using, whether it be on unemployment insurance or in the engagements I talked to you about that my office conducts, ACFR or SWAC. So with that being said, we have, per the recommendation of a few people on this committee, we've been gracious to receive your all's recommendations on a few AI-driven or AI-powered softwares to enhance our audit process. We're looking into those. And with that being said, Auditor Ball is very interested in a performance audit division and services like I just kind of spelled out that could enhance, just as one example, our sampling process and review more of a population rather than a sample would bring our office into the new age of auditing. And a particular product that we're in the process of procuring is called Data Snipper. So when we are, for any of the auditors that are out there, there is a tedious process where you're cross-referencing financial statements to make sure that the 1 plus the 2 plus the 3 adds up to 6. Like, you're making sure that all of those columns in this 300 plus page document are adding up correctly. And in the past, it's taken upwards of 8 people or more to go through a large document like that and add up those numbers. But Data Snipper has a tool where, if you've ever used the screenshot function on your computer, where you take a snippet of a page and then it adds up those columns. And so that decrease in that manual labor can go a long way in time savings and could reduce the number of people in an office the size of 25 from 8 to 3, really. And so imagine the cost savings as well as the engagements that we could pick up as an office, all in all, audit efficiencies that we could pick up with a product like that, not to mention the other AI services that members of this committee have recommended to us.
Director Fry regularly has to decline performing audit engagements due to bandwidth issues. So pulling this product into his shop gives him bandwidth to pick up more audits so that the people have the performance of their agencies actually reviewed.
Yes.
And then the second thing that we were discussing, it's like if I'm buying a cargo plane, Representative Hodgson, I can go faster with more fuel efficiency. Not only will it increase his processing bandwidth, but to the extent that that software handles some of the routine analytics, it frees up the human minds to do higher level audit analysis. So Auditor Ball is with Director Fry. They're very excited about this offering.
Yeah.
Sorry to add a little
No, that's
commentary
great. That's wonderful.
He might, by the way, is our office pilot, so I got to use a flight analogy for him.
A story for another day. So with that all being said, the Auditor Ball has charged us with entering in this new age of auditing, and something we're very eager to do. We're running down every sort of opportunity to do that. However, something I wanted to flag for this committee, though, is that our office, as well as the entirety of state government, is awaiting Governor Beshear's signature for the AI policy for the entirety of state government. And so while we are consulting different organizations to procure AI related services, we're waiting on his policy to finalize that process. So with that being said, that is a view.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
You're an independent constitutional officer. Is this your choice to follow his lead and not have your own policy, or do you feel that it's legally required for you to follow his policy?
It is my understanding that it is the legal. We're legally required to follow his policy, and so we're awaiting his direction on that front.
Okay. Well, I think we won't discuss that now, but I think this committee might have some questions about that because I'm not sure that's the case. But we'll look into it.
We can discuss
later
that
on.
further. We'd be happy to meet and dive into that, or at this committee. But so with that being said, Auditor Ball is very eager for us to enter in the new age of auditing, and that covers the basis on the audit shop side of things. But now I'll hand it off to my colleagues on the ombudsman side of the shop to cover how they different software and different IT related needs that they've looked into.
Chairman, by way of your prior question, the statute that keys in on that relates to the authority of the state's chief information officer. There are two competing statutes. The later enacted one gives the CIO certain authority, including the AI policies. It's my understanding from Director Fry that you wanted some discussion on Senate Bill 25 and the right of access to information without cost to certain state information systems. So I'm prepared to provide a moment's worth of commentary as to that. And I would let my deputy talk about some IT systems that we're using or planning to use in the Ombudsman's office that will directly increase our level of service to your constituents, including a story about people being disconnected, which I think the chairman previously alluded to a disconnect, and I think your ears will appreciate that type of diligence. By way of Senate Bill 25, it provides that not just the Ombudsman's part of the auditor's office, but the entirety of the auditor's office has the right to access state data on an IT system. The kicker there, though, is there's no real change for the entirety of existing living memory. The auditor's office has had a clear and express statutory right to access any state record anywhere, regardless of how housed. Auditors, they just love digging into raw data, not filtered data going through a bureaucrat, but raw, actual data. On the ombudsman side, we had some difficulty in our transition with CHFS in terms of accessing like child abuse and adult abuse records, resulted in litigation against the governor, successfully resolved. That's now expressly spelled out. When we do some of our performance reviews or eligibility reviews, we have to access other databases across state government, like in unemployment or the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet, because you're looking at income and did applicant grade actually properly qualify when he made that food stamp application. We got word that some agencies were looking to charge for that access, notwithstanding our statute. So 25 just clarifies that when you said what you meant and you meant what you said. When the auditor's office can look at information, you don't get to hide that or put a paywall behind that. We are the state's auditor, regardless of whether it's coup or the audit side, and we have that clear right to access it. If you're a private entity, you are going to design an IT system so that the auditor you come in to do your books, whether you're Yum Brands or UPS or the Kroger store, your auditors come in and they have free access to everything you contract for them to do. Why would it be any different in state government? Here, from an efficiency standpoint, is a crazy analogy. You require us to send a bill to the agencies that we audit to pay for the cost of that audit. If we had to pay for access to their computer system, well, they're going to send us a bill for access to the computer system, and then we're going to send it right back for them to pay us for the cost that we had to pay them. So it was just a little bit of, you have to short circuit that bit of not quite logical potential thinking. We appreciate that very much, but there is no change to the operation of how that's supposed to happen. 100 years of free access to all data wherever housed, and with 25, it's still that same way. We have some very cool things, it's just a couple minutes, happening like on the ombudsman side that Heather would love to speak with you just about for a moment.
It should be noted that when I inquired as to how much the Cabinet for Health and Family Services paid for the access to that information, I was advised that they did not pay for the information. This was going to be a new cost for us. And so we really appreciate the General Assembly making sure that you all were able to streamline this language in our statute for us so that no cost would be incurred. When evaluating IT platforms we inherited, it became readily apparent that they were using legacy platforms. For example, one of the platforms they were using was from 2013. It is at its end of life, and that might as well be a century ago in technology world. We have identified a solution. We will have a kickoff meeting later this month as to provide a one-stop shop solution across both sides of our house in the Commonwealth Office of Ombudsman. It will be a single pane of glass with real-time reporting, with purpose-built functionality and all the professional services that we need, as well as the ability to make adjustments on the fly as changes come, because you need that flexibility when you're dealing with real-world technologies nowadays. The new software solution provides the ability to generate and monitor statistics, but will also be able to allow us to have dashboards so that we can convey this information transparently to citizens of Kentucky who are curious to how their local office may be doing at the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and needing that feedback from them directly. We are anticipating that it's going to reduce the amount of time that our management review officers spend inputting data. So as John mentioned earlier, if we're freeing up time doing some data entry, some very basic kind of procedures, that gives us more free time to focus on analytics. And there's so many different aspects of the cabinet that this office has not been able to touch merely because they didn't have the bandwidth or the capacity and personnel to do so. I know both Auditor Ball and Ombudsman Great have testified previously that the most complicated investigation that was done by this office was how complicated a form was. And so we are really digging into that and trying to take the charge that you all have faithfully executed upon us and making sure that we're using our resources to the best of our ability.
Chairman, just a little point of a pat on the back. This product was identified by one of my other directors, Laura Sudkamp. She was retired. She was the previous director for the Kentucky State Police Forensic Laboratory System. DC keeps trying to bring take her away, but we've retained her. This is a solution that was found off like master agreement, so it's going to be simple, seamless, wonderful across the entirety of the enterprise.
One of
Very
the
good.
one of the other solutions we've identified, and if I may, Chairman, I will quote you as saying, "No customer shall be disconnected." We agree with that 1,000%. We found that the platform, that the call center solution that was being used by the Commonwealth Office of Ombudsman, individuals were being constantly cut off. They were not able to hear our staff. And so we have been working to identify solutions to address that, because we don't want any caller to be disconnected. We want to be able to provide them services. So under Auditor Ball's leadership, and we've been working with the Chief Information Officer at COT. We've identified a possible candidate. We just got approval from the feds because it will have, it has HIPAA compliance, so it's been used in the healthcare facility, just to make sure that we're looking to meet the needs of our customers, as well as maintain the privacy that they have in the information that they are conveying to us. With the passage of Senate Bill 25, thank you so much for giving us back our phone number. So previously, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services did not want the phone number to go with the office, and so we were receiving, for example, in April, we received 1,200 calls. In July, we received 2,200 calls. We received 134 calls just the other day on August 11th. And just shows you the number of people that were not able to connect with our services.
What kind of calls, Deputy? These are people reaching out for help.
They are people reaching out for help. They were complaints. They're individuals who need to have access to the basic necessities, whether it's trying to process their SNAP application, or they're trying to figure out why their children were taken away from them, or what they can do to find services. You know, there's a waiver program about getting their children access to programs and help across the Commonwealth that just were going unmet until you all acted.
Thank you. I think phone number portability
Ombudsman.
started. Phone number portability was back in 1980s, right? I know that wasn't the problem, though.
No.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm not the chairman. I interrupted you, sir. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I was for our half of Director Fry's presentation in terms of Ombudsman and IT. I think that concludes our portion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. It looks to me like you're doing an excellent job getting already built solutions so you can get them online fast instead of trying to build custom ones just like the previous AOC. So congratulations. It is getting late. I would like to follow up with you after this about some questions that I know you're auditing, KentuckyWired and some of those things, and perhaps we could just have a little offline discussion here where that's over, because I want to let the committee go. And thank you very much for your patience. This was a little bit longer meeting than we expected or we normally have, but I appreciate the work you're doing and the instrumental position you are in the Commonwealth here for, I believe, for the legislature, where you can give us a balanced approach on what's going on in the executive branch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, members of the committee. We appreciate your time.
Do I hear a motion? Second. Quorum, do we have a quorum to adjourn? Yeah, adjourn without objection. Thank you. Thank you guys very much.